The desert was endless. Golden sand stretched in every direction like an ocean without water. The sun burned fiercely and the air shimmered with heat. A lone figure walked slowly across the dunes. His name was Alex, a human traveler on a strange alien planet. He carried a small pack on his back. Inside was very little, just a piece of dry bread, a small tool, and a half-empty bottle of water. Every step felt heavier than the last. His lips were dry, his skin hurt from the sun, and he wondered if he could survive another day. But Alex kept moving. He had no choice. If he stopped, the desert would swallow him. Suddenly he heard something unusual. At first he thought it was the wind, a faint sound like a weak cry. He froze, listening. The desert was normally silent, but now there was a soft voice, broken, almost too weak to hear. Curiosity pulled him forward. He climbed the nearest dune, his boots sinking in the hot sand. On the other side he saw something strange. A small shape lay half buried in the sand. Alex hurried closer. When he reached the figure, his heart skipped a beat. It was not human. The creature was small, like a child. Its skin shimmered faintly, pale with cracks as if it were made of glass. Two large eyes glowed dimly, filled with pain and fear. Its body was covered in dust and one leg was bent strangely as if broken. The child was an alien. Alex knelt beside it. The alien's chest moved up and down very slowly. Its lips, if they could be called lips, were dry and trembling. The creature opened its glowing eyes wider and looked at Alex. No words came out, but Alex understood the meaning. The child was dying of thirst. Alex's throat tightened. He looked at the bottle hanging at his side. There was barely a mouthful of water left. If he gave it away, he might not survive the desert. But if he didn't, this creature would die right here in front of him. He hesitated. His hand shook as he pulled out the bottle. The sun burned above him, reminding him how much he needed that water. He could feel his own dry tongue sticking to the roof of his mouth. But then he looked at the alien child again. Its glowing eyes were not just full of pain, they were full of trust. As if it already believed Alex would help. Alex sighed. "All right, little one," he whispered. He lifted the alien's head gently and brought the bottle to its mouth. Slowly, drop by drop, he let the water touch the child's lips. The alien swallowed weakly, then more eagerly. Its trembling hand reached up, holding Alex's wrist as if afraid he would stop. Alex gave every last drop. The bottle was empty now. Alex was left with nothing. His throat ached even more, but he tried to ignore it. The alien child coughed softly, then let out a faint sound. It was not a word Alex understood, but it felt like a thank you. The creature's glowing eyes softened, no longer full of despair. Alex laid it back down on the sand and looked around. The desert was still silent, nothing but dunes and heat, yet he felt uneasy. Somewhere deep inside he knew this moment was important. Saving this small life might change everything. The alien child reached out and touched Alex's arm. Its hand was cold, almost fragile. Alex stayed beside it, giving comfort in silence. Time passed. The sun began to sink lower, painting the sky red and gold. Alex knew he had to make a fire soon, or the cold desert night would kill them both. He dragged the alien child closer to a small rocky patch where the sand was firmer. Using scraps from his pack, he managed to start a weak fire. The alien child slept, breathing more evenly now. But Alex could not sleep. He kept staring at the stars as they appeared one by one in the dark sky. Strange constellations filled the heavens, patterns no human had ever seen before. But among them, Alex felt watched. Several times he thought he heard distant sounds. Low growls carried on the wind. The hairs on his neck stood up. The desert was not empty. Something else was out there. He gripped his small tool tightly, ready for danger, but nothing came close. Not yet. Alex looked down at the child again. Saving it had cost him everything. His last water, his last hope for survival. And yet, something inside told him he had done the right thing. The fire flickered. Shadows moved around him. The alien child stirred, whispering in its sleep. Words Alex couldn't understand, but they carried weight. He leaned back, staring into the endless desert night. He did not know it yet, but this one act of kindness, giving water to a dying child, would soon bring an entire tribe. Roaring tigers and a bride to his feet for now. Though Alex closed his eyes, resting beside the small alien, with the desert wind howling around them and far away, glowing eyes watched from the darkness. The desert was quiet. Too quiet. Alex sat near the dying fire, staring into the darkness. The alien child slept close to him, wrapped in a thin cloth Alex had torn from his own shirt. The flames crackled softly, but every shadow felt alive. The stars above were brilliant, brighter than anything he had ever seen on Earth. They stretched endlessly, but they gave him no comfort. In the silence, Alex heard things he could not explain. A soft growl, a whisper of sand shifting, a strange clicking noise like stones knocking together. He told himself it was the wind, but deep down he knew it wasn't. The alien child stirred. Its glowing eyes opened just a little. It whispered something, soft, broken, but filled with fear. Alex couldn't understand the language, but the meaning was clear. Danger. He leaned closer. "What is it, little one?" he asked quietly. The child pointed toward the dunes. The gesture was weak, but Alex's heart pounded. Slowly, he turned to look. There, far away, the sand rippled. Not from wind, but from movement. Large shapes shifted under the moonlight. Shadows glided like predators on the hunt. Alex tightened his grip on the small tool at his side. It wasn't much, a dull blade, more useful for cutting rope than fighting monsters. But it was all he had. The sound came again, this time louder. A roar rolled across the desert, deep and powerful, shaking the ground under his feet. It was not like any animal roar Alex had ever heard. It was wilder, stronger. The alien child clutched his arm, trembling. Its glowing eyes filled with tears, and it whispered one word Alex somehow understood. Guardians. Alex frowned. Guardians? Of what? Of who? He had no answers. Only questions. Another roar echoed, closer now. The firelight trembled as if afraid. Alex's instincts screamed at him to run, but there was nowhere to go. Sand in every direction. No water, no shelter. Just endless desert. Then came the tracks. At first, Alex thought his eyes were playing tricks. But when he walked a few steps from the fire, he saw them clearly in the sand. Giant claw marks, fresh and deep. The creatures had passed nearby while he and the child slept. He swallowed hard. The size of those tracks was terrifying. Whatever had made them was much larger than any tiger on Earth. The child tugged on his arm again, whispering fast in its strange language. Alex couldn't understand the words, but he recognized one thing: fear. Pure fear. The desert was not empty. Something ruled here. The fire grew smaller. Alex fed it the last pieces of wood he had collected, but it wasn't enough. Darkness crept closer, swallowing the edges of the light. Then suddenly silence. No growl, no roar, no shifting sand, only silence. That silence was worse than any sound. Alex crouched low, pulling the child close. His eyes darted everywhere, searching for movement. Sweat dripped down his face, even though the night was cold now. Minutes passed like hours. He forced himself to breathe slowly, quietly. Then he saw them, 2 glowing lights on the dune across from him. At first he thought they were stars, but they were too low, too close, too alive. Eyes watching, Alex froze. The alien child buried its face against his chest, refusing to look. The glowing eyes blinked once, then vanished into the darkness. Alex stayed awake the rest of the night, listening, waiting, fearing. His heart never slowed. Not once. By morning, when the first rays of sunlight painted the desert gold again, he finally stood up. The child was still asleep, exhausted from thirst and fear. Alex looked around. The tracks were clearer now in daylight. Dozens of them circled the camp. Heavy paws, deep claws. They had been surrounded all night without knowing, and yet, nothing attacked. It was as if the creatures had been watching, studying, deciding. Alex clenched his jaw. He knew one thing: this was not over. Whatever those guardians were, they were not done with him. The alien child opened its eyes and looked up at him. Its voice was soft, but the words chilled Alex to his core. They come, soon. Alex stared at the horizon. The dunes stretched forever, but far in the distance something moved. The shapes were larger now, clearer. A line of figures marching, growing closer with every second. The desert was no longer empty, and Alex had no idea if he had saved himself or invited his own doom. The desert sun rose like fire, burning away the coolness of the night. Alex stood at the top of a dune, staring into the distance. The alien child sat beside him, silent but alert, its glowing eyes fixed on the horizon. At first, Alex thought it was a mirage. Heat waves rippled above the sand, shaping strange images. But then he heard it, a deep, rhythmic sound. Thud, thud, thud. The ground shook softly as if something heavy was marching closer. Alex's heart pounded. He shaded his eyes with his hand. The shapes grew clearer. Not machines. Not a storm. Beasts. Enormous beasts. They were like tigers but larger, muscles rippling beneath striped fur, fangs glinting in the sunlight. Their eyes burned with wild fire. Each one carried a rider, armored in shining plates that caught the morning light. The riders sat tall and proud, their faces sharp, their skin glowing faintly like the child's. A whole tribe was coming. The alien child let out a soft cry, half joy, half fear. It stood weakly, waving its thin arms. The riders noticed. Their beasts roared, the sound echoing across the dunes like thunder. Alex felt trapped. He had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. He tightened his grip on the dull blade in his hand, though he knew it was useless. The riders spread out, surrounding him on all sides. The tiger's massive paws sank into the sand, claws leaving deep marks. Their growls vibrated in Alex's chest. The leader rode the largest beast of them all. Its stripes glowed faintly blue and its fangs were longer than Alex's arm. The leader was taller than the others, with a cloak made of silver fur and a long staff glowing with strange symbols. He dismounted, the sand crunching under his heavy boots. His sharp eyes fixed on Alex, the desert grew silent again. Only the sound of the child's weak breathing broke the stillness. The alien child ran forward, stumbling until it reached the leader. It fell to its knees, clutching the man's leg, speaking in a rush of words Alex could not understand. The leader bent down, listening. His hard face softened for a moment. He lifted the child gently into his arms. The tribe murmured together in their strange language, voices low and respectful. Then the leader's gaze turned back to Alex. His eyes were fierce, unreadable. He took a slow step closer. Alex held his ground, though his heart raced. He thought this was the end. They would kill him for touching their child, for daring to give water to one of their kind. But then something unexpected happened. The leader stopped just in front of Alex. For a long moment, the two stared at each other, man and alien, worlds apart yet tied by one moment in the desert. Slowly, the leader bowed. The tribe gasped as one. The beasts lowered their heads. The riders placed their hands over their hearts. Alex blinked in shock. He had no idea what this meant, but he could feel the weight of it. This was no small gesture. This was respect, honor. The leader spoke at last. His voice was deep and commanding, yet filled with something more, gratitude. Alex did not understand the words, but he understood the feeling. The alien child reached out from the leader's arms and touched Alex's hand. Its glowing eyes were calm now, filled with trust. Something shifted in the air. The tribe was no longer looking at him as an outsider. They were looking at him as something greater. The riders parted suddenly, making a wide path. A roar shook the desert as another great beast appeared, a white tiger larger than all the others, its fur shining like snow. Upon its back sat a young alien woman. She was tall and graceful, wearing jewels that sparkled like fire. Her eyes glowed brighter than the child's, filled with mystery and strength. She dismounted with silent steps and stood before Alex. The desert wind tugged at her hair, making her look almost unreal. The tribe bowed again, all at once, their voices rising in a single chant. Alex's name echoed among them, though their accents made it sound strange. The woman's gaze locked with his. She said nothing, but her expression carried a message clear as day. You have changed everything. Alex felt the weight of the moment press down on him. He had come here as a lone traveler, fighting only to survive, but now he was something more. And though he didn't know it yet, this woman, the one who had arrived on the white tiger, was not just anyone. She was the tribe's gift, a bride of honor, but to Alex it felt less like a gift, and more like the beginning of something far bigger and far more dangerous. The desert wind carried silence after the tribe's chant faded. The young alien woman stood before Alex, her white tiger breathing heavily at her side. The beast's glowing eyes fixed on him, but it did not growl. It waited, calm, as if it too understood what was happening. The woman's jewels sparkled in the sun. Golden chains rested on her shoulders and silver bangles rang softly on her wrists when she moved. Her skin shimmered faintly like the child's, but her glow was stronger, proud, unbroken. Alex's throat was dry. He could barely speak. He had fought storms, hunger, and thirst in the desert, but nothing prepared him for this moment. He didn't know if he should bow, speak, or run. The tribe leader raised his staff. His voice boomed across the dunes, speaking words Alex did not understand. The riders echoed the chant, their voices mixing with the roars of their tigers. It felt like the entire desert itself was joining in. Then the leader placed the child gently in the arms of another rider and turned to Alex again. He gestured for the woman to step forward. She did, her steps light on the sand, her gaze fixed only on Alex. When she stopped, the leader lifted her hand and placed it in Alex's. The desert went silent once more. Alex froze. Her hand was warm, her touch steady. Her eyes, bright and sharp, studied him with curiosity, almost hope. The leader spoke again, slower this time, pointing at Alex, then at the woman, then raising his staff to the sky. His words rolled like thunder. Alex couldn't understand, but the meaning hit him like a strike of lightning. This was no meeting. This was no welcome, it was a marriage offering. Alex pulled his hand back, shocked. Wait, no, that can't be. His voice cracked. The tribe didn't understand his words, but they understood his hesitation. Murmurs spread among them, low and uneasy. The white tiger growled softly as if warning him. The woman tilted her head, studying him. She didn't look angry. She didn't look afraid. Instead, she stepped closer, her eyes softer now. She placed her hand on his chest, right over his heart. Her lips parted, and for the first time she spoke words he could almost understand. Chosen. The sound was delicate, but the meaning was heavy. Alex shook his head, taking a step back. Chosen? Chosen for what? The leader raised his staff again, silencing the whispers. His voice rose strong, carrying through the desert. The riders pounded their fists against their chests. The tigers roared in unison, shaking the ground. Alex realized this was not just for him. This was for all of them. To the tribe, his act of giving water to the child was more than kindness, it was a sign. A sacred event. Something foretold. The woman's gaze never left his. She whispered again the same word, firmer this time. Chosen. Alex's heart pounded. He wanted to shout that he didn't ask for this, that he only tried to save a life. But the weight of the tribe's eyes crushed his voice. Hundreds of glowing eyes stared at him, waiting, expecting. The desert sun beat down. The air felt heavier than before. Alex felt trapped between two worlds, his own humanity and theirs. The leader stepped closer and pressed something into Alex's hand. It was a necklace woven from silver threads with a pendant shaped like a roaring tiger's fang. The pendant glowed faintly. The moment Alex held it, the tribe roared again. The sound was deafening. They raised their staffs, their fists, their voices. The bride-to-be bowed her head slightly. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried fire. She was not afraid of this union. She was ready for it. Alex's stomach twisted. He wanted to believe this was just a mistake, a misunderstanding, but a deep part of him whispered otherwise. This was destiny. The alien child, still weak but awake now, crawled closer. It looked up at Alex with wide, glowing eyes and whispered something softly. Alex didn't understand the words, but he felt the meaning. Gratitude, approval. The tribe began to chant again. Alex's name, strange on their tongues, echoed louder and louder, rising with the roars of the beasts. The desert itself seemed alive with the sound. Alex looked at the necklace in his hand, at the woman before him, at the endless tribe surrounding him. He had come into this desert as a stranger. Now in a single day he was being bound to an entire people, and though he tried to fight it, a chill ran down his spine. Because deep inside he knew something terrible. This gift was no gift at all, it was a responsibility, a chain, a destiny he could not escape. The woman's voice cut through the noise, soft but sharp. You are ours. The desert sky turned red as the sun began to sink. The tribe set up camp around Alex, their white tents rising quickly like blooming flowers on the sand. Fires burned in circles, smoke trailing into the evening air. The great tigers lay down beside their riders, their eyes glowing in the twilight. Alex sat near the largest fire, the silver necklace heavy around his neck. The alien woman, the bride, sat across from him, silent but watching. The alien child lay resting nearby, wrapped in soft cloths, its breathing steadier now. Alex's heart refused to calm. The tribe treated him like a hero, but he felt like a prisoner. Every movement, every glance reminded him that he was no longer alone in the desert. He was surrounded and escape was impossible. The tribe sang low songs around the fire, their voices deep and strange, rising and falling with the crackle of flames. It should have felt peaceful. But to Alex the songs carried a weight, a warning he could not yet name. The bride finally spoke. Her voice was steady, her words broken but clear enough to understand. You gave water. You, chosen. Alex rubbed his forehead. I didn't mean for this, he said softly. Her glowing eyes narrowed. No mistake. The stars watched. She touched the sand and drew a symbol with her finger, a circle with sharp lines around it. Prophecy. Alex stared at the drawing. He shook his head. I'm not a prophecy. I'm just a man trying to survive. The bride tilted her head, studying him as if weighing his words. Then she leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Danger comes. The fire crackled louder as if it understood her warning. Alex felt a chill despite the heat. Danger? He asked. She nodded slowly. Her eyes flicked toward the horizon, where the desert met the night sky. Others hunt us. Hunt, child. Hunt, tribe, now. Hunt you. Alex's stomach tightened. He remembered the glowing eyes he had seen in the dark, the claw marks in the sand, the way the air itself felt heavy, full of unseen watchers. They know, the bride whispered. You gave water. You touched destiny. They will not forgive, Alex frowned. Who are they? She looked away, her jaw tight. Her silence was enough. Whoever they were, the tribe feared them deeply. The alien child stirred in its sleep, mumbling in its strange tongue. Alex reached out and placed a hand gently on its arm. The child's glow brightened for a moment like a tiny light against the night. The bride's eyes softened. You protect. You fight. Or I'll die. Alex's breath caught. He wanted to shout that he was not a fighter, not a leader, not a chosen one. But before he could answer, a sound cut through the night. A whistle, sharp, high-pitched, not from the tribe. The songs around the fires stopped. The riders froze, their glowing eyes turning toward the horizon. The tigers lifted their heads, ears flat, growls rumbling low in their throats. The bride stood quickly, her jewels jingling softly. She gripped Alex's wrist with surprising strength. They come, she whispered. Alex's pulse raced. He rose to his feet, staring into the distance. On the horizon, small lights flickered. Not firelight, not stars, something else. Machines. The lights moved in straight lines, too perfect to be natural. A low hum filled the air, growing louder. The tribe's leader barked orders. The riders mounted their tigers in silence, gripping their staffs, their armor glinting faintly in the firelight. The bride pulled Alex closer, her voice urgent. Now you see, danger real. The alien child woke, frightened, clinging to Alex's arm. Its glowing eyes widened as it looked toward the approaching lights. Alex held it close. His heart hammered in his chest. He had given water to a child. That simple act had changed everything. Now he was bound to a tribe, tied to a bride, and caught in a war he didn't understand. The ground trembled. The lights on the horizon grew larger. The hum turned into a roar. The bride's final words before the clash chilled him to the bone. Chosen one. Destiny means war. The desert night exploded with sound. The horizon glowed red as the enemy machines roared closer. Metal beasts on wheels tore across the dunes, their engines screaming, lights cutting through the darkness. Dust rose behind them like a storm. The tribe was ready. Riders mounted their great tigers, gripping staffs tipped with glowing blades. The tigers growled, their striped muscles tense, claws digging into the sand. Each roar shook the ground, echoing across the desert like thunder. Alex stood frozen, his heart pounding. He had never seen war like this. The bride pulled him closer, placing a spear in his hands. It was long, carved from bone, its tip glowing faintly blue. Fight, she said simply. I don't know how. Alex whispered, panic rising in his chest. She met his eyes. Desert teach fast. Or you die. The leader raised his staff high. A booming chant rolled through the tribe. The tigers crouched low, ready to spring. Then the machines opened fire. Blinding flashes lit the night. Explosions shook the sand, fire bursting among the tents. The alien child screamed as the ground trembled. Alex threw himself over the child, shielding it from the falling sparks. The bride pulled him up, her voice fierce. On tiger now! Before Alex could argue, a massive striped beast lowered itself in front of him. Its eyes burned golden, its breath hot against his skin. The bride climbed first, then pulled Alex up behind her. He clutched the spear with shaking hands, holding on tight as the tiger growled. The leader roared a command. The tribe surged forward. The charge was like a storm. Tigers leapt into the air, crossing dunes with terrifying speed. Their riders swung glowing staffs, their war cries mixing with the beasts' thunderous roars. The clash was brutal. Tigers slammed into machines, claws tearing metal apart. Riders struck enemies from their seats, their glowing weapons cutting through armor. Sparks flew. Fire burned. The night filled with screams of men, beasts, and steel. Alex held on as his tiger bounded forward, weaving between blasts of fire. He tried to breathe, tried to stay calm, but the world was chaos. A machine turned its gun toward them. Alex froze until the bride threw her spear. The weapon flew straight, glowing as it struck. The machine exploded in flames. She handed Alex another spear from her back. "Throw!" she shouted. Alex shook his head. "I can't." The tiger swerved suddenly, leaping onto another machine. Its claws ripped the metal apart. The rider beside Alex struck down the enemy driver, his weapon blazing with light. The bride glared at Alex. "Fight, or child die." Those words cut deeper than any blade. Alex looked down. The alien child was huddled between two guards, eyes wide with terror. Rage burned inside him. He tightened his grip on the spear. Another machine charged toward them, its front glowing with deadly heat. Alex rose on the tiger's back, his body trembling, and hurled the spear with all his strength. The weapon struck the machine's side. It burst in a shower of sparks, flames licking across the sand. Alex gasped, his chest heaving. He had done it. The bride's lips curved in the faintest smile. "Chosen," she whispered. The battle raged on. The desert lit up with fire and blood. Tigers leapt, machines fell, explosions thundered. The sky filled with smoke, hiding the stars. Alex fought clumsily, but every strike was fueled by desperation. He protected the child. He followed the bride. He fought beside the tribe. And slowly his fear turned into fire. Hours felt like minutes. When the dust finally began to settle, the machines lay broken, their flames dying out on the dunes. The surviving enemies fled into the night, their lights shrinking to nothing. The tribe raised their weapons high. A roar of victory shook the desert. Tigers lifted their heads, howling into the dark sky. Alex sat on the great beast, his chest burning, his hands bloody. He was shaking, but he was alive. The bride turned to him. Her eyes glowed fiercely, not with fear, but with pride. "You fight. You live. You ours," she said. The alien child crawled into Alex's arms, whispering softly in its strange tongue. Alex didn't understand the words, but he felt their weight. Gratitude. Love. The leader rode forward, raising his staff. The tribe cheered, their voices rising as one. They chanted Alex's name again, the sound echoing into the night like a storm. Alex stared at the burning horizon. He had never asked for this. He had never wanted war. But his act of kindness, one bottle of water, had led to this moment. The battle was over. But destiny was only beginning. The desert was quiet again. The machines lay broken on the sand, their fires slowly dying out. The smell of smoke drifted into the night air. The great tigers prowled among the wreckage, their glowing eyes watching for any survivors. The tribe stood tall, battered but victorious, their weapons raised to the stars. Alex sat slumped on the back of his tiger, his body heavy with exhaustion. His hands were raw, his arms trembling from the battle. He looked down at the alien child in his arms. The little one had survived, its glowing eyes wide and unblinking, staring at him as if he were something more than human. The tribe's leader rode forward, his staff glowing faintly. He stopped before Alex and raised his hand. The tribe fell silent at once. Only the sound of the crackling fires remained. The leader spoke. His deep voice carried through the desert, powerful and certain. Though Alex could not understand the language, he understood the meaning. The tribe was praising him. They were honoring him. The bride dismounted her white tiger and walked to Alex. She stood tall in the firelight, her jewels shining, her gaze steady. Without speaking, she took his hand and placed it over the silver necklace he wore. Her eyes glowed brightly as she whispered in broken words. "Now, you choose." Alex's throat tightened. His heart pounded harder than it had in the battle. "Choose? What do you mean?" The bride's gaze didn't waver. She pointed first to herself, then to the tribe, then to the child. Her voice was calm but sharp. Stay. Become us. Live with tribe. Fight, protect, lead. Her words hung in the air like a blade. Then she turned, pointing to the dark horizon beyond the desert, or, go leave us alone, walk. As nothing. Alex froze. He had never felt so torn. On one side there was the tribe, fierce, powerful, alive with fire and loyalty. They had given him honor, a bride, a place among them. They saw him not as a stranger but as chosen. On the other side was freedom. His own path. His human life, away from war, away from prophecy. The chance to walk into the horizon and never look back, but if he left, the child would look for him and not find him. The bride's glowing eyes would wait, and he would never return. The tribe began to chant softly. His name, his new name spoken in their tongue, echoing like a drumbeat in his chest. The sound grew louder, shaking the air. The leader raised his staff. The tribe fell silent again. All eyes turned to Alex. The fires flickered, shadows dancing across his face. The bride stepped closer. Her hand rested on his chest, her voice soft but sharp enough to cut through the silence. You are ours, or you are gone. The child clutched Alex's arm, whispering something he could not understand, but the tone was clear. A plea. A desperate call not to abandon them. Alex looked around. The broken machines still smoked on the dunes. The tribe's eyes glowed in the darkness, waiting. The bride's gaze pierced into his soul. The child's hand trembled in his. His chest ached with the weight of it all. He had given one small act of kindness in the desert, one bottle of water, and now, the fate of an entire people sat in his hands. Stay, and he would become something more than human. Leave, and he would forever carry the guilt of walking away. The desert wind howled, carrying sand across the battlefield. Alex closed his eyes, breathing slowly. When he opened them, he knew his choice. But before he could speak, the screen faded to black, and only one question remained in the minds of those who watched. Did the human stay? Or did he walk away?